Hey, welcome to Above Board with Candor Path. It's me, the Rich B. And guess what? We're all three here today. We've got Matt, John, and Rich. How you guys doing?
What up?
Hello, Richie.
Hi, bro. So I've been excited to talk about this. We kind of did a little intro, a little teaser in our last podcast about what we were going to talk about today. This is something that is near and dear to Matt's little heart, his little Grinchy heart that's just grown and grown over the years. We're going to be talking about the year of C, the year of yes. Is that true?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you regretting this conversation right now,
This
Matt?
is already not going the way I want it to. Let's go back to John's year of no and let's talk about that, which, by the way, you guys crushed that one. I listened to it on the car drive. I was sorry that I wasn't able to be a part of it, but it was a really good one. I liked it. And I thought the only way to outdo John is to then have the year of yes.
So technically you've already been off to a bad start because you said no to the first podcast of the year. So we've got to kind of ramp you up. You already started off with the no.
Now, in my defense, John's like, hey, in 20 minutes, we're going to shoot a podcast. And I'm like, I got things going on in life and wasn't able to make it. So that wasn't really a no. It was more like John just kind of tells me what to do. And if I'm able to do it, I can.
Unlike John, you're not sitting around playing Mario Kart. You're actually working. So I'm just kidding.
I'm
just kidding.
Fair bit of Mario Kart that happens in our household.
I played Mario Kart last night, and I was playing my sister and brother-in-law because you can play like people that are not. It's crazy technology these days. Like I'm not used to this. So they're in their home, we're in our home, we're playing, and Brad thinks it's Ella, or at least it says Ella. And then at the end of it, he texts me, he's like, I don't think Ella knew how to do all of that. It was so fun. 30 years of practice have gotten me to my Mario Kart skills.
Kind of a flashback to when your kids were being homeschooled during COVID, and it said Ella, but really you were doing all of her ABCs and her math. So anyway, just kidding. That never happened. All right, so listen, let's get right into it. So Matt, talking about what made you think about something called the year of yes? Like, what's the motivation? What does it mean for you?
It's a good question, Rich. And I think I take a lot of inspiration from you two. I feel like you two are the intellectuals as part of our podcast. You talk about Stephen Covey and Ed Milet and all these big names and self-help. And you guys are just the gurus. And I'm just the big dummy over here that, just dealing with finances. But I want to talk to you guys about a story about a guy named Carl Allen. And Carl Allen, you may or may not know him. He was a loan officer at a bank. And, he's just used to saying no to everyone who comes in to get these loans. And he gets taken to this, this presentation about a guy who talks about the positive mindset of yes. And he still has this no mindset after he leaves this presentation, but he slowly starts to see that if he says no to things, bad things happen. And if he says yes to things, some amazing things happen. And I took this very intellectual story. John, why are you giggling over there?
Because I Googled it, because at first I thought this was real. And then I Googled it. Okay, no, keep going.
And so, yes, if you Google it, you'll see a picture of Mr. James Carrey. And this is the movie Yes Man. So I take my inspiration from Hollywood.
You call him James? Is you guys is that what you call him?
I call him James. We're bros. And so no, I got my inspiration from the movie Yes Man, not from Stephen Covey or Ed Milet or any of the names that you guys throw around on a daily basis. And I just sort of shrug my shoulders when that happens. But taking the principles from that, and there really is something called the yes mindset. And I think, first of all, let's talk about the last podcast John was on in the no. They're actually the very same principles, because John is saying yes to as many opportunities as he can in order to and try to go grand with those to try to achieve no's.
Right.
Mine is very similar in saying yes to opportunities that come my way, again, in order to see if there's something that can develop from that, both on a personal level and on a professional level. So I think they're actually very similar. They're just kind of taking it from two different angles.
What's fun for me is my first introduction to your year of yes, when I shared with you my year of 100 no's, and I asked, would you be willing to go with me to this conference to experience a potential no? And then you said, well, yes, because this is going to be if this is going to be your year of no's. And you've done the year of yes before. Like you've done this, you did this a few years ago, right?
Yeah, it was like either pre or post COVID. I can't remember what it was, but it was just like looking for opportunities. And I noticed that if I just started saying yes to things that kind of came my way, that things just sort of opened up. And I can't even think of like one-off example from that. I just remember being in a super positive mindset that year. And so we are 9 days
Matters.
into this year. I've already experienced my first one, which will actually occur tomorrow, where something I really, really, really wanted to say no to, and I said yes. And so let's see what is to come of that. But it's something as simple as tomorrow morning to go for a walk with my neighbor buddies at 5 a.m. And no, I have a big meeting tomorrow. I have a workout already scheduled. I don't really need another one. But I was presented with this opportunity. Boy, Rich is like Googling now to see if his calendar's available and why he didn't get this
No,
phone
I'm gone.
call.
No,
Whose
that'll never
calendar
happen.
Oh
is
yeah,
not available at 5 a.m.? You can come with us,
that's it.
Rich.
He's
No, I
always
will
going
not be.
somewhere. So anyway,
I'm leaving.
that's where my head is at right now. But there are some very specific principles I'm looking at. Yeah, a lot of joking here, but honestly, the first thing is to become a better listener. In our line of work, we listen all day long, right, to clients talking about his financial problems or us responding to that. I want to become a better listener. So I'm thinking,
Hmm.
really by having this yes and positive mindset, it allows me to listen to things and then maybe take a little bit longer to analyze them before the first gut reaction, sometimes which is no,
Right.
comes out of there. So, it's trying to become a better person through the power of yes. What do you
So
guys
the
think?
so the example you already gave with the walk, for example, this is not only going to be about professional things, but this is going to be about things in your life as well. And so there are, what are the reasonable parameters of this? So if some weird cult knocks on your door and says, we want you to come to our meeting on Wednesday and donate $1,000, that's going to be a no. But if somebody asks you to do something where there's a growth potential or an opportunity or learning, is that, I just want to understand. So, because there's people that take this so literally,
Yeah,
what's
this
the
is not
parameter?
yes day. Like the kids, when I was talking actually about this to Lauren last night, because she always gives me some really good. She's like, okay, yeah, right. Because you say no to the first thing that generally comes up. Then a lot of times it is related to the kids because I'm like, no, no, no. And then Lauren's like, okay, pause for a second. That's not that big of a deal to let them go do this. Like, just let them go do that. So we actually had a small debate last night, and she's nearly always right. And so I think, Rich, to answer your question, it's not to say yes to everything.
Right.
It's to be more analytical and to be conscious of the fact that if my first reaction is to not want to do something or to say no, is to pause, even if it's for 30 seconds, and say, well, what if? What if I said yes to this?
Okay.
What is the worst thing that could possibly happen? And is that acceptable? I oftentimes think that one of the when I was kind of preparing for this, something that stood out to me is no sometimes is riskier than to say yes, because going off the beaten path is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes, again, the point of it is to open up opportunities.
Right.
And so, I to answer your question, Rich, it's not really to say yes to every single thing because that's impossible, and that
Of course.
breeds irresponsibility. It's to be more analytical as opportunities come your way to say, hold on, the answer is probably no, but let me just think through what does it go down that path of yes looks like. Tomorrow morning's walk, a hard no. I have a really busy day. Like I said, I have a workout already planned. It's an easy no. And I honestly, I get the kids ready in the morning. I need to have my A game. But what
By the
if I
way,
said
this is how
yes?
he's telling me no is on the podcast, by the way. Because he
I'm
said
gonna do it,
maybe
John.
before. You
Right.
guys have no idea how much I'm going to exploit this year of yes. It's going to be great.
Well, what I love about it though is I feel that thinking about people that I know and even thinking about myself, and I think that's one of the things you always do on a podcast, right? Is that you listen to a podcast and you immediately you do the relate compare thing, right? So you'll listen to somebody talking about a workout and then you compare your workout to their workout. And you're like, oh, mine's not as good, or I'm not as strong, or the opposite. Oh, mine's way better. That's such a wimpy workout. And that's how you compare, or you relate and you listen to a podcast and you go, okay, well, I'm not this Olympic athlete, so I'm not doing what they just said, but I can apply that to my life in this way. And so as I'm listening to this and trying to relate, I'm thinking about myself, and that's what people should do when you listen to a podcast, put yourself in the shoes of the person speaking. And I think that for a lot of reasons, I go to no because, and I'm just going to be honest, it sounds hard. It's going to annoy me. I'm going to be out of my comfort zone. I'm tired. It's dangerous. Something bad could happen. That's where you go. So using the kids for an example, hey, there's a birthday party at X place at this water park. for the kids. I'm like, no, I don't want them going to this water park. Everybody's sick. I don't want them coming home with all these germs. It's disgusting. That's I'm right to a no. Whereas my wife's like, yes, of course, it'll be fun. It'll be great. And I think about that a lot of the times. Would you say that because we got to understand the no to get to why you're getting to the yes. It is your no, and this might be for you as well, John. For you, Matt, do you feel that your inclination to no comes from a place of fear, comes from a place of discomfort?
No, I think it's because I have a lot of self-imposed barriers, right?
Mm,
I'm in the world of finance. I see
mm,
numbers all day long. I see the worst of what could happen if there are not protections and walls built around you sometimes. And so I have a lot of self-imposed barriers. I think what this is doing is maybe knocking down some of those self-imposed barriers, not to be irresponsible, but to allow and see maybe there's other opportunities there for for growth in both on a personal and a professional level. So
So,
I think it's the self-imposed barriers. And I would even go back to yours about the kids going to the water park.
mhm,
Is there's a lot of self-imposed barriers there. There could be something that happens. They could be sick. What if it is the greatest birthday party that Ava has ever been to, and it's the she has the time of her life, and now wants to become a lifeguard because she saw something amazing happening. I don't know. I'm just going down this road, but
right.
these self-imposed barriers we have, maybe knocking some of those down, or at least recognizing that some of them might be too high. Those walls are too high, and that they can come down a little bit. And what's the potential, and what could come your way is
Right.
kind of the mindset that I'm trying to take.
At the end of the day, what do you hope to get from this? What's we're at December 30th, 2023, and we're about to come up on the end of the new year, and we go, hey, let's look back on Matt's year of yes. What do you want to be able to say, hey man, this is what I got from this? Like,
I
do you
want to say, wow, that worked. Wow, I'm a
Mhm.
happier person. Wow, there's a lot of opportunities that came my way that normally I would not have gone down that road. I think it's important, and I'm not a big journaler, but I think it's important to maybe like to start notating when some of these things come up that again would have been like easy to say no to,
right?
and say, you know what, I did go down that route, and maybe start to follow where the outcome goes to.
Understood.
So I'm hoping by December when we have our wrap up that I maybe have 5 or 10 things. I don't need to think there needs to be 100, 5 or 10 things that again I would have normally said, this is not my thing. To let's give this a try and see how that works. And I don't expect all of them to become perfect, but I certainly
Right.
think that there should be some things that I was like, wow, I would have that was not in my comfort zone, and I got out of my comfort zone. I feel very comfortable right now. And I think that's probably where the genesis of this came from. I feel very comfortable professionally and personally, and comfort sometimes is scarier than being uncomfortable. And I feel like that's why this came up right now, is because I have a lot of comfort around me. And that's a good thing. But I feel like sometimes that could also be a bad thing, because you start to become complacent and lazy. And I don't ever want to do that. This is really where a lot of this came from.
I
It's
love it,
so
John.
interesting. It's like a different perspective of the conversation we had last week. Like for me, the year of 100 no's is about putting myself in a position of discomfort because
Mhm.
I recognize and I know through experiences of my own and others that moving through discomfort on the other side of that is growth and
Right.
opportunity. And a lot of times I'm happier. I'm a happier version of myself when I push through something and I can look back and go like, wow, I did that. I did that. That's super cool that I and it's fun for me to hear you talk about this because it is truly just a different take on the same outcome, which is putting yourself in more uncomfortable situations. Go
I,
ahead,
I
Rich.
I came across something that you're making me think of in a podcast somewhere, and it was by an author. I don't remember his first name. Last name is Toffler, Toffler, and he was talking about how to be successful and in the future what future success looks like. And he said we have to the people that will be truly successful aren't the people that'll XYZ. He gave the examples of what we assume. He said you have to be able to learn, unlearn, and then learn. And I was picking up my phone because I texted it to myself because it was in the middle of the night when I was reading and I couldn't sleep, and it really jumped out at me. And I'm listening to what Matt said, and I'm listening to what you said, and I'm putting this together, and I'm realizing that what you both are striving to do is you've had a way of being, you've learned a certain set of habits, And that comfort, that stasis, if you will, happens out of a sense of, this is what I've always done. This is how I do it. This is how I, approach things. You're now trying to unlearn it and change the habitual way of doing things, and then learning something new. And if you think about your industry, there has been quite a bit of learn. You did things for 20,000 years. Unlearn. We now have to have meetings from home and Zooms and do this and this and whatever, and then learn all of that again. And I'm sure there might be some people of a certain generation within your industry. Certainly, I know within my industry and other industries where they had the unwillingness to unlearn the old and learn the new. So I just want to put this out there for our listeners, because it's a fascinating concept. We learn a way of doing things, and then we need to unlearn it, and then we need to learn a new way. Both of you are doing that. Matt learned a certain habit of the cautious, the risk manager, whatever. He's trying to unlearn that, which is extremely uncomfortable. And now he's trying to learn this more positive mindset. John, you on the other hand, maybe similarly in a flip version, but they're more alike than they are different. As Matt said at the beginning, you've learned a certain way of being, so you're unlearning it and then trying to learn. How does that land with you? Does that make sense?
Which
Nobody?
one? Yeah, well,
Either.
I have
The
a
learn,
take on.
the learn,
Yeah,
unlearn, learn.
I agree with that, and I think what's fun for me is as I know Matt, and I'm looking at his schedule right now because I was actually trying to figure out what he has on Tuesday. That is the big thing that he is facing, that he's saying yes to, and I can't clearly figure it out. So I'm gonna have to figure it out. But anyway, what I know about Matt is he is very rules based. You are right. You're very rigid around your calendar, very protective around your time. I would say in that way we come very routine driven. So this is what we do. When the workday is over and when school is out, like we do these same things. And you guys were talking about like going to a water park, and I was relating to that very much because there's been a lot of times where I'm like, I don't want to go to this kid's birthday party today. That's like the last thing I want to do. And then usually, I would say more times than not, when I do that thing, I come back, Jackie's like, how was it? I'm like, oh, it was so great. I watched Ella do this thing, or Hudson went down the slide for the first time, and I talked to this parent and so and I had this awesome conversation, and I connected with somebody. Usually I come back feeling some feeling of energy as a result of it. I don't typically come back and I'm like, oh, I'm such a waste of time. I wish I had stayed in bed and watched Netflix. So I think that it's fun for me to hear you, Matt, talk about this, knowing the rigidity of your schedule. And you are very protective of your time because you start the day out with max energy, and slowly over time it's depleted by the end of the day, and you have a lot of meetings. So
I've taken what you said a
so.
lot, John, which is I've really been trying to think, especially this year, about, and I've been using the terminology, what brings me energy or what takes energy away. You asked me to do an energy audit earlier in this year, as we typically do at the beginning of each year. And I'm not a big goal setter or energy auditor kind of guy. I'm just wired a little bit differently than that. Those do not motivate me as much as just putting my head down and work or having the goals in my head. So I really been trying. And so one of the things I said yes to most recently was meeting a client for lunch as opposed to the office. Now, I'm very comfortable in our office. It has all of our technology. I can conduct a meeting the way that I conduct the meetings, that gets the point across that we're trying to talk about finances. And a client said, hey, I would really like to go meet for lunch. And I was like, it's just so much easier doing a meeting in our office, or. And so I said yes. And I had a meeting, I had a lunch meeting with Jim, and I had the most engaging conversation for an hour and a half, and I had so much energy from that meeting. We talked a little bit of finance, but we mostly talked personal stuff. And that brought me so much energy. So that was really kind of the beginning. That was really the first yes that I had this year, was meeting a client other than a place where I'm most comfortable, and having just this amazing conversation where we just got to know each other on an even deeper level than what I had already known. And I've known the guy for 15 years. And so that really was the beginning of it. And then it just, my hope is just it continues to snowball from there onto bigger and bigger, bigger things.
Well, what it sounds like for both of you is that you're trying to achieve a paradigm shift. And if just for those of you that don't use the word paradigm in common conversation, paradigm is a typical example or pattern of something, or a model. So a lot of us have a paradigm this is how we build our life. This is how we function. This is what we do. It doesn't necessarily mean habit. I mean, synonyms of it could be like philosophy, etc. But you're doing a paradigm shift. You're literally taking your model of existence, your model of function, your model of habit, your model of process, and you're deciding to have a paradigm shift. And that is when big things happen. Big things happen when we shift our paradigm. It'll be interesting to Matt, and I know you said you're not a big journaler, but it would be interesting, even if you didn't journal, just for the purposes of the podcast, if you kept a notepad somewhere and just wrote down the times you said yes and what happened. It would be interesting to see at the end of the year, there's these 15 occasions of lunch meeting versus Zoom, or kid's birthday party versus not, or walk versus stay at home, and give the feedback, because this, a lot of people would be scared to do this because we're such literal thinkers. It would be interesting. I mean, if we can look at what it means to you, and John, maybe the same thing for you with your how many no's you got, just documenting it.
Now, here's the question I have. I have the year of yes. John has the year of no. Rich, what are you doing? Do you have the year of maybe? I mean, you gotta come up with something here, buddy.
Rich,
we need something from you,
I don't
bud.
think Matt finished our episode last week. Matt, did you finish the episode?
I'm sure I did. What was it? I listened on 2x speed. I can't listen to you guys on 1x speed. It goes way too slow. I just 2x'd through that thing. I just plowed through it.
I do the same thing. Anytime I listen to myself at 1.0 speed, I'm like,
oh, it's the worst.
This guy sounds dumb. And then on 1.5 speed, I'm like, oh, yeah, look at me.
Well, it really has like some really good, clean, concise points. Like, this is really good. Everything should be on 2x speed.
Everything. I don't remember what I said at the end. Is it
See?
bad?
It couldn't have been that great.
Well. I don't remember.
No one remembers?
No.
Rich, do you want me to tell you what your year is?
Yeah, what was my
year? Your year is, I'm going to hit you with it. Your year is the year of awareness.
Oh, that's right.
I remember that now.
Sorry. And right. I do know that because it's like right in my journal right now. So obviously I'm off to a banging start because I'm not even aware of my own awareness.
Yeah, I really think you should do the year of maybe.
The year of nah. It's not a hard no. It's just nah. Just like nah.
We'll see.
Mine's. We'll talk about that at another time. But yeah, the year of awareness. It's something that's so funny that it's escaped me because I've been making it such a part of my day already. And we're only like 8 or 9 days into the year, but it's been such part of my day that I'm almost forgetting that it's something that I'm trying to do new. Where every few minutes I'm like, am I aware right now? It is the weirdest thing. We'll talk about it it's its own podcast, but I find that I am very worried about the future, and I lament things over the past, and I beat myself up over things, and then I have anxiety over what I have to do and the new things that I'm being asked to do and the new challenges that I have, that I am finding myself that, and my ADD, it's just been it causes a lot of anxiety for me. And I took the dog for a walk yesterday, and I tried to constantly orient myself to awareness, to present. So it's very interesting. So we'll talk about that. So that's mine. And I think that with both of yours, though, I think it's so fascinating because it speaks to the comfort and how when we are comfortable, it's so funny because we strive for comfort, yet the things that enable us to achieve comfort are uncomfortable. Does that make sense? In other words, we want to have the beach house and the boat and not have anybody bother us and be financially independent and wealthy and whatever, let's say, for example. But to achieve that, unless you just got lucky and your parents are super wealthy and you inherit it, to achieve that, there's a lot of discomfort to get to that point. And so I think it's really neat that you guys are realizing that your discomfort is what brings you, like I think I said on the last podcast, on the other side of discomfort is growth. And I think that's a great thing. Matt, do you think that it's going to be painful? And when I say painful, obviously I don't literally mean like, oh, I mean, do you think it's going to, has it already, will it cause you some such levels? Have you felt that yet? Or is it too early on in the journey?
Yeah, I think some of it will just be self-imposed, because really the things that we say yes to are not things that are going to be putting us in a dangerous situation or really taking something not to the next level.
Right.
I think it's a mindset of say yes and we'll figure it out afterwards.
Do you find
Right? Yeah.
yourself as a natural person? Are you wired naturally to be a positive thinker?
I want to say yes. I really, really want to say yes because I think we all want to say yes. But no, I think again, I'm going to lean on the crutch of my job, in which I am trying to protect the downside as much as possible, and always looking at the downside. What could go wrong on a financial plan? What could go wrong in owning stocks versus bonds and all those things? My job is to look at the worst case and let the best case take care of itself.
Okay.
So because
And
of that, that mindset bleeds over into other areas naturally. So
John,
I want to think that I'm very
yeah.
positive, but it's almost, again, we are so analytical in our job, and we are so looking at where things could blow up, that it's hard to not take that, again, have that bleed over.
John, do you think you're wired naturally to be a positive thinker?
I think I have positivity oozing out of my pores. Um, and I think as I've known Matt, and him and I have a good counterbalance with one another. I wouldn't say pessimistic, but very pragmatic in decision making and looking at things,
In fact,
both
we just had a
pros and
conversation
cons.
about something you were super jazzed about, and I was, because I just had a bad experience with this opportunity, that I was like, "Geez, John, really like reevaluate this direction that we want to go with our company." And I think and then I think at the end of the conversation, I said, "John, my head is in a very negative place because of this, that, and the other," and it sort of made sense why I was sort of hesitant, and or at least giving an objection to every point that you brought up in a conversation we just had. So I think that's a good one to kind of lean on and to say, yes, let's go in that direction, and just kind of know where some of the pitfalls that might come from it versus no, because this area of our industry sucks and I don't want to do this anymore.
He's very grounded in doing like SWOT analysis. If anyone
Right.
remembers like that acronym, like strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats,
Yeah.
learned that in Business School 101. What's up, UCF?
Isn't that's a
And
Stephen Covey thing, isn't it? No, maybe
I don't
not.
know, but I
No,
learned
that's
it in
seven.
like business
He invented it. He
management and
invented everything basically. I mean, if it's
I
yeah.
just use him, and I just go back and forth with him and Ed Milet. I
Yeah,
can't, between the two of them, they've come up with every like thing that you need to do to be successful in business.
I
well,
imagine in Matt's brain when I say something, he's just got this like SWOT chart in his head that's just I envision it happening as I'm telling him things.
well, I think
And
that's why
I'm
you guys are such a good balance, though,
yeah.
because if you had two Matts or two Johns, it
Oh
just
my
would
gosh,
be
this would be a
like
disaster.
it would be such a wreck. It wouldn't be a wreck. It would just be a little. It would fun. It would take a longer time to get to the finish line,
Yeah.
And I think that you
What are you
guys are
giggling
both
about,
very good
John?
about that.
John's got the
What's
giggles now.
Well,
You look
it
like
just makes me laugh thinking about us being because a lot of people think we're so similar. Like as
yeah.
they get to know us, they're like they say that we either sound alike or we look alike. And
Really?
so people, yeah,
They're seeing the
we hear
movie
that
Twins.
we hear that. Jeez,
Oh
this
boy,
joke again. We hear
that
that often, and I think internally we are so different in a lot of ways, and it's complementary
I think the only
to one another.
similarity I find between you two being an objective observer is that you're both extremely high IQ, intelligent, and also high EQ people, which is a very unusual combination in human beings. And I find this personal experience in men. But I find both of you, Matt, as much as Matt is this analytical, guy that does taxes, math whiz, finance guy, he's also one of the kindest people I've ever met and just will think of you and remember things and bring things up. And, he gave this sweet compliment about, my son last week, teaching karate, and just a very thoughtful person. And John, you're the same way. You're very kind. You're very loving. So I think you guys both are similar in the sense that you have a high IQ. You're both very smart, but you also both have a very high EQ. You're very good with people. You're very concerned. I've talked to John and Matt just because he's my next door neighbor, so I see him more than I see you. But I've had days where I've seen John outside. We're both going to get the mail. I'm like, "How are you?" And he looks really upset. I'm like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Nah, I had a client, they lost their spouse, and it was a really difficult conversation." And you could tell it emotionally bothered him. So you guys are that's where I see your similarity. So I think that's a great thing. Here's what I love. What we're landing on in the example that you're giving for our listeners is where are you comfortable in the sense that it is causing you stasis. You are stuck in one spot. You are not moving forward. You are not making gains. You are not growing your business. You are not growing your fitness. You are not happy. Your relationships are stale, stagnant. how can you shake it up a little bit? How can you take the snow globe and just shake it up so that it looks cool? If you just have ever just looked at a snow globe sitting on a shelf, if those of you have ever seen a snow globe before, it's just a little plastic cutout of whatever, New York City or London or St. Louis or something with an arch, and you're like, oh, cute. But then when you shake it up, all the little fake snow starts to fall around and it becomes this interesting milieu. It becomes a really pretty image. And I think what you guys are doing is you're taking your snow globe and you're shaking it up. And so what I'm asking all of our listeners is think about your snow globe of your life, your picture, your still stagnant plastic cutout of wake up at 6 a.m, get the kids ready for school, go to work, drive here, do this, get my coffee, blah, blah, blah. Where can you shake that up a little bit? I know I'm doing that in areas of my life, and I know that I'm inspired by the idea of a year of yes, a year of no, a year of awareness. So Matt, I'm excited to see where this brings you.
Thanks, buddy. I think you brought a good point, and I think journaling those things, or at least jotting them down, is will allow us to have a really good conversation 11 months from now
Yours
and
can be
see
and
where
yours
where
can
the
be
opportunities.
and yours can be an Excel spreadsheet. It's fine. You can
It's
do it
gonna go on
however.
Excel.
I
I mean,
can't
is
wait
there
to
any
see
other
the
software out there besides Excel? That's
I
so much
cannot wait
ones
to
and
see
zeros.
the Excel spreadsheet entitled "The Year of Yes" by Matt Marcoux. So I think that's great. So guys, as we are wrapping this up, I just want to once again thank everybody that listens to this humble little podcast for bringing us up into the top 2%. We love it. Please, 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 please like and share. That is the way that you can say yes to Above Board with Candor Path. Thank you so much on behalf of John, Matt, and myself. You guys have a rockin' day. We appreciate you. Stay well.